This is Making Stitches, and this time my guest is Amy Ting, a crochet designer who specialises in all things amigurumi and wants to bring new people to the craft.
Well, of course, I am a huge advocate for trying something new and challenging. That's a big thing, a big message I preach in this book. Always challenging yourself to elevate your skills, no matter how many years of experience you might bring to the table. For myself, I mentioned I've been working on amigurumi for about 7 years now, a little bit more than that. But if you're asking me to create a crochet cardigan or a blanket using different stitches that I haven't necessarily tried, of course it's going to be different. It's a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to have to probably Google a bunch of things to make sure I'm doing things right. But with that being said, it's like, it doesn't matter if you come to the table with 20 years of experience. If it's a new skill, there's always room to grow. There's room for mistakes too, and that's perfectly fine. And I just say go for it.
Hello and welcome to Making Stitches podcast. I'm Lindsay. I love crafts, crochet in particular, and I'm a huge advocate for the positive benefits of making and being creative. Once upon a time, I was a journalist and I loved being able to speak to people about what they were passionate about and bring their stories to a bigger audience. Making Stitches podcast gives me the chance to share the stories of fellow makers and creatives, and I absolutely love making it. This time I'm sharing a conversation I had a few weeks back with Amy Ting, a crochet designer based in the US. Her speciality is amigurumi, the crochet technique which involves working in the round to create 3D shapes from yarn. Amy is a passionate advocate for amigurumi and shares her work online under the name Curious Papaya. Amy's been designing and publishing her own patterns for several years now, but this summer she published her first ever book called Amigurumi Critters, which is filled with patterns to make the cutest little animals. We got together to chat about her brand new book, but first of all I asked her about being creative in childhood.
Oh my goodness. I was definitely that kid that needed supervision all the time at school. I was full of lots of energy. I was always busy doing something, bouncing off the walls and all of that. Really loved arts and crafts. That was by far my favorite time of the day. And I love dabbling in everything. I included a little bit in the introduction in the beginning of my book, but I always did things like with perler beads and with like hand weaving with scraps of fabric and painting, drawing, whatever you could imagine, I was there. And even as an adult too, I dabbled a little bit in ceramics. And then, once I found crochet, though, that's where I really landed and stuck to it for the last now 7 years. Almost
Fabulous.
7 years.
So what was it that turned you on to crochet, having tried such a diverse range of crafts before then?
There was one specific moment in high school before amigurumi was really known. I would say, it existed, but it wasn't that popular, especially in America. I don't feel like a lot of people crochet in America in general. Knitting, obviously, is more well known. But a friend of mine had crocheted her own Kirby dolls. And I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's a video game character.
Ah.
Yeah, so maybe if you saw a picture, you'd be like, I recognize that. It's like a pink ball, essentially. And Kirby was my favorite character to use in another video game called Super Smash Brothers. So I loved video games growing up, and that probably had to do with me having a brother much older than I was. And when I saw that you could make any character that you imagined, I really was so mesmerized by that. But it wasn't until many, many years later that I realized, hey, I want to try my hand at this new craft. And my friend's got a baby shower coming. And that's how I got into it.
And
I wanted to make her a little cursed gift.
What did you make? What was the first thing you made?
I followed a UK YouTube tutorial on how to make some bunny plushie. I was confused beyond compare. It was a great tutorial, but for someone trying their hand at it at the first time, obviously, I had it played at like 0.25 speed, watching the same part over and over. And UK terms versus US terms got me good.
It does for us
Yes, it
too.
was a cursed little bunny with lots and lots of gaps.
But it was special. I'm sure it was treasured as well.
Thankfully, it was. I've definitely had other gifts I made after that that I felt were much better quality, but it wasn't appreciated the same. But that bunny still exists and it's very well loved. It has one eye now. It's hanging on by a thread, and it makes me so happy that they would keep my creature that I made for them all these years. And yeah, that was really meaningful to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you spoke there about trying to get your head around making amigurumi. I make amigurumi myself, and I have
Yes.
friends who do blankets, they'll make garments, but they're like, oh no, I can't do that. It is just too hard. Just the 3D-ness of it, I think, freaks people out. What would you say to
Yeah.
somebody who perhaps is in that situation? They've maybe got the basics of crochet under their belt and they'd like to, but they're just too scared. What tips have you got?
Oh my goodness. Well, of course, I am a huge advocate for trying something new and challenging. That's a big thing, a big message I preach in this book. Always challenging yourself to elevate your skills, no matter how many years of experience you might bring to the table. For myself, I mentioned I've been working on amigurumi for about 7 years now, a little bit more than that. But if you're asking me to create a crochet cardigan or a blanket using different stitches that I haven't necessarily tried, of course it's going to be different. It's a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to have to probably Google a bunch of things to make sure I'm doing things right. But with that being said, it's like it doesn't matter if you come to the table with 20 years of experience. If it's a new skill, there's always room to grow. There's room for mistakes too, and that's perfectly fine. And I just say go for it. There's something so meaningful about creating a plushie that's going to be a keepsake or even an heirloom. Hmm.
Yeah, and when you make something with love for somebody, that's the magic
Yes.
ingredient anyway, even if it does have a few holes in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest adjustment, I think, if you're going from blankets, as you mentioned, to making something 3D is adjusting the tension. Because now all of a sudden, you don't want drape. You want. You want it to be so opaque that, if you were to, I don't know, blow through it, you wouldn't be able to feel the breeze. That's how thick it's got to be. Yeah.
Absolutely, you don't want to be seeing that filling popping out through the in between the stitches, do you?
Right, right.
So tell me a little bit about your amigurumi journey and how you went from following tutorials to actually designing your own little creatures.
Sure, of course. I mean, there were definitely some trailblazers who put out wonderful tutorials back then. But just like I said, it's not like centuries ago. It was only 7 years ago. And the resources were much more unlimited back then if you wanted to pick up a hook and learn how to make amigurumi. I started off, like I said, watching tutorials of things that I was interested in making. It did not matter what the skill level was. I just thought, oh, if it's cute, let me try it. And I definitely had to abandon several projects after I realized that this is too hard. But of course, I started off making things in hopes of, creating my own characters that I enjoyed. And then that turned into making commissions for friends and people amongst my community. And that snowballed into wanting to make things for my daughter's future play kitchen, once I got pregnant and had her. And then crochet really took off during, 2020-ish era. And yeah, from there, I just fell deeper in love with it. It really gave me something to focus my time and my anxiety on. Helped me process that quite a bit. And just fell in love with it. And the more you make it, the more you realize, oh, I understand how to manipulate the shaping if I want something longer or shorter. It just came naturally, and um, I am someone who always goes off the instructions. I mean, it's probably a terrible thing, which is probably why cookbooks don't work out great for me. But it's kind of like I'm so intuition driven that if I want to manipulate something to go a slightly different way, I just just can't resist. I really, really want to, you know, test my creativity in that way. Yeah.
Fantastic. And where do you get your inspiration from? Because obviously you've created a wide range of characters over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I really love chibi kind of Japanese styles, and I grew up loving Sanrio, so Hello Kitty and all of those friends, and Beanie Babies in the 90s, our house was flooded with them. And so I think like the really cute little beaded tiny eyes and the tiny nose, tiny mouth were really appealing to me. And I could see a lot of that reflected in my creations. And even though there are 25 unique animals in my book in particular, all of them kind of have a cohesive look and a cohesive size too. And that was on purpose so that they all belong to the same collection, even though we had, land animals and sea animals and so on.
Absolutely. They do look like a family of friendly critters, I have to
True.
say. Do you
They're
want
my children.
Yes, I'm sure they are. I feel much the same about things that I've made as well. You've got it's 25 different little animals that you've got in your book, from a koala to a chick and sloth and, little penguins and all sorts. What's your favourite?
Oh my goodness. I always say a different animal each time I'm asked this question, but I guess today I'm going to say Milo the monkey, and I have him right next to me. Let me grab him. This is Milo here,
Oh,
and he's actually got bendable arms and everything, so
oh,
that's
that's
really fun.
fantastic. Yes.
And yeah, I think he's my favorite right now because I just really love how silly and simple he is. I feel like this is very approachable for intermediate beginners. And because of that, my publisher and I decided to do a free crochet along. So that's actually ongoing right now as we speak. But I know you mentioned that this is going to be aired later.
Yeah.
But yes, so we're doing a crochet along right now where people in the community can make him and create the most outrageous modifications, make him as creative as possible. And we're just doing that as a little celebration of our book. Yeah.
How fantastic. And what kind of a reception have you had to your book from the crochet community?
Oh my goodness. I am so, so, so blessed. And I'm so thankful for the power of community here. I feel like the crochet community is such a special niche on Instagram, especially. I know there's other social media platforms, but I really feel like that's my home base. And people have seen me since day one, right? And so they know me well. And just to have their support, especially those who have been returning after year, that means the world to me. They made this title the number one top release for about a month as it first debuted in America. And that was really exciting to see that it released in the summer, so about around June. And it was writing that title for a really long time. And I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
That's incredible to be able
Thank
to top
you.
the charts doing
Oh
something
my
that you
goodness.
love.
Yeah.
It must be amazing.
It really was. I was so touched every single day where people were getting excited to get their copy and tagging me in photos of their makes. It was really cool. Yeah.
It must be so nice to see your designs out there in the wild when you see them popping up all over the place and being shared on Instagram and that.
Of course, that's a dream come true. I really did say, I think 5 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, that like it was my dream to release a crochet book one day. And, I tried and failed and tried and failed. And eventually the right door opened up. And that's how Amigurumi Critters came to be. So it wasn't a linear journey at all. Mm-mm.
Well, it just goes to show that persistence pays off. Don't give up.
Thank you. Yes, truly, truly.
Oh, that's fantastic. What I've got to ask you, obviously, you're a prolific crocheter to have come up with so many different patterns. What's on your hook at the moment? What are you creating today or at the minute?
At the moment, for our crochet along, we actually have a community group chat. So I made it public for anyone to join, and there we're sharing our progress photos and whatnot. And I decided, you know what? I am itching to crochet along with all of you. So I have another Milo on my hook, except I am modifying it to be humongous. So I'm using my extra, extra chunky yarn and using my giant hook. And so far, his head is the size of a baby's, which isn't that big, but I guess compared to this little guy,
Yeah.
it is. So yeah, I'm working on my second Milo right now.
Fantastic. Well, that just goes to show how sort of flexible amigurumi is, depending on the size of the yarn and the different materials you use. You can have incredibly different results, can't you, from one creation to another? Same number of stitches,
Yes.
but completely different.
Exactly. I think that's the beauty of it,
Mm.
and people coming from making blankets or wearables, it's a much more laborious process. But with amigurumi, in some ways, it is a lot more rewarding because, it works up much quicker. You can finish a project in an hour or two. And the characters in this book in particular probably take about like 2 hours to 4 hours max each, which can easily be finished in a weekend. Or if you're really, really, really focused and diligent, maybe one evening, right?
Absolutely. Perfect answer for last minute presents, I think. That
Oh,
kind of thing has
yeah.
worked well for me in the past.
That's wonderful.
Okay, so would you have any advice, or what advice would you give to anybody who maybe is an aspiring amigurumi designer who'd like to follow in your footsteps and have a go at putting their own creations out into the world?
Wow. Well, first, that's such a big question. And I really do feel like a normal person. And I hope that my encouragement really helps empower people, to follow what they're passionate about. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but a big question too is to ask, where is there a gap in the market, right? Where would your unique designs contribute to what doesn't already exist? Right? Or if you're doing something that is a well loved niche, like animals, right? It might not be the newest thing on the block. It's a very timeless one. It's going to be loved for ages, and just making sure that you have a very unique, solidified style that where others can recognize, oh, that is so and so's design, right? I think that's really cool to be able to have that, and just l- letting yourself be creative and running with it, that's definitely the joy of doing this, having so much creative freedom.
Absolutely. And I guess if you were to focus on something like animals, the possibilities are endless because the world is full of so many different combinations, and you can
Oh,
really
yeah.
go to town, can't you, with the colours and the textures and everything.
Right, right. And I think that's why I have way too much yarn because I mean, that's probably a common problem in any designer's household, but I think it's because I do love all the different textures. Like I said, I'm making a giant Milo the monkey right now. And on the other side of the spectrum, I have like a bunch of thread, and like that's really cool to crochet from too. You could do so much with just playing around with the weights of the yarn and the hooks. Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the thread because I follow a couple of designers, one who makes like granny squares, tiny minuscule
Yeah.
granny squares, and another one who does jewelry and things. That's I just can't compute how you can possibly work with thread. It's so tiny. How do you get on with that?
Right. I mean, I definitely find it more challenging than crocheting with a larger yarn. You really have to focus, and it is not a car ride project.
No.
You're gonna give yourself some motion sickness if you try that. But yeah, it's so cool. It's like painting with different mediums of paint, right? Um, if I phrased that correctly. Yeah, when you're thinking about painting with watercolor versus painting with thick oil paints, right? It's both paint, but you're using different brushes, you're using different techniques, and in the end, you're still creating something beautiful yet unique. And that's really how I see playing around with crochet threads versus giant chunky blanket kind of yarn. Yeah.
Fabulous. I guess the possibilities really are endless, aren't they, with crocheting?
Mhm.
So, what's next for you, Amy? Will there be Amigurumi Critters Part 2 coming out with a whole new load of different animals, or something completely different next?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am definitely looking for my next opportunity to work on my next book. That is something that's a lifelong dream to continue putting out crochet books. There is no end to that. And I have not settled on a theme just yet. I mean, 25 animals, that was already a really hefty goal to achieve. And I'm so glad that I challenged myself with that. I think if I had to choose, I'd probably want to try something slightly different. So, I'm going to let that marinate though. And when the right concept comes to me, I think I will know. When you know, you know. And
Absolutely.
in the meantime, right, for the rest of this year at least, I am putting forth most of my energy towards creating enough inventory for a 2-day big holiday fair. And that's going to be really exciting to create a booth display and create a whole immersive experience, not just, a craft pop up kind of thing. I'm really going to make it into like an experience, like you're stepping into a grocery store or something, and you're going to be shopping for, crochet fruits and veggies and whatnot. And that's what I have in mind. And I'm also telling myself, okay, I have until November and it's almost September, so I need to get my butt moving.
That
But it's a
sounds
different kind
amazing.
of yeah, it's a different kind of holiday market coming up, so I'm excited for that. Mhm.
Wow. There's nothing like having a tight deadline as well to get you to get
Mhm.
busy.
Yes, I love to chase myself with that procrastination and, the adrenaline, the best motivation.
Oh, how amazing. Well, I wish you all the best for
Thank
that
you.
and also for the continued success of your book. It's really, really a lovely book, and I'm very much looking forward to making the little fox. He's caught my
Thank
eye.
you. Oh, yes, Finnegan is one of my favorites as well, and I believe Amigurumi Critters became available in the UK end of July, so it's recent.
Mm.
It's still rolling around into the stores and whatnot, but I hope that lots of locals will be able to enjoy it soon too.
Absolutely. Well, it's a lovely book, and I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to share it with me and anybody who's listening to Making Stitches today. It's been a real treat to speak to you and hear
Thank
your
you.
amazing enthusiasm for all things amigurumi.
Thank you. I feel absolutely passionate and excited whenever it comes to talking about amigurumi, and so I appreciate you sharing that time with me too.
It's been great. Thanks, Amy.
My thanks again to Amy for chatting to me for Making Stitches podcast. And thank you to you too for listening. If you'd like to support my podcast making, please share this episode with anyone who you think would enjoy listening. Or perhaps you could buy me a virtual coffee through my Ko-fi page, or visit my Making Stitches shop on Etsy, where you can find podcast merchandise and some of my own crochet patterns for sale too. Any money I receive goes straight into paying for this podcast's production costs. To find links to Amy at her Curious Papaya website, please check out the show notes for this episode in the podcast app where you're listening to this, or by visiting the Making Stitches podcast website at makingstitchespodcast.com, where you can find my Ko-fi and Etsy links too. Until next time, thanks again for listening. I really do appreciate your support. Take care of yourself and enjoy your crafting.